celebrations, like my favorite player growing up was Don Madsen, right? I hit a home run, put your head down, run around the bases, don't make a deal. I'm not a huge fan of all the showboat stuff. I understand why they're pushing it. I understand it grows. I get all that. Like, I understand you have to Butch told me, I hated it. And I was out on the celebrations. And then Chaffin told me one time, he goes, you got to let them have fun, coach. Like, we beg them to play with enthusiasm, and then they start playing with enthusiasm, and we tamp it down. It's like, I get it, but like.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the world's favorite youth baseball podcast, Clearing the Bases, featuring Coach Jimmy, Phil, and Jerry. I'm David Friedman. I want to thank you for coming along on this ride with us.
We're constantly watching that character piece, and there's been a lot of really good players that we have not taken because, I mean, you're asking the word we use is uncommon, right? Like be uncommon. We're trying to be uncommon. It is very common for a normal 12-year-old to go in a hotel for the first time by himself and run up and down the halls and make a mess and mess around. That's common. That's what a normal 12-year-old do. Like, if you want to be on this team, you can't do that. And that's where we talk about the puzzle. The puzzle's got to fit. And the puzzle has to be, we need a guy who's the best shortstop in his state to be able to sit on a bench, catch two bullpens in the dirt, and then go play right field and throw a kid out at first base in a gold medal game and not have an attitude about it.
We're going to jump back into the world of USA Baseball. The reason why I like to go to USA Baseball a lot, as you can tell, because we've had several guests that are USA Baseball coaches, and I just love going to them because in the world of youth baseball, that's where you're going to find the good coaches. So today we have Bryan Madsen. He is the head coach of the USA Baseball 12U national team. He is, or was, until recently, was the head coach at St. Joseph High School in Santa Maria, California. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of good coaches out there, but there's none better than Coach Madsen, and I am happy to have him on. Bryan, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. That's a heck of an opening. I appreciate you saying that. If I'm a good coach, it's just because I've been surrounded by better ones. So I appreciate you saying that.
No, not a problem at all. I only speak the truth. So, and you know what's interesting, and you just alluded to it a little bit, was, the coaches that you surround yourself with. Okay, so this is something that I really think is important, and I know the coaches that you surround yourself with, and tell us a little bit how that has shaped you as the coach you are.
So I got really, really fortunate, and it's kind of funny. Life's kind of full circle and tied all together. But I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years, and I got out in 2004, and then did a few things, bounced around, and then I met my wife, my now wife, and then her cousin is Nick James, who was with USA at the time, and he, at the time he was, really highly regarded coach in Florida and kind of around the country. And I had talked to him, and we hit it off quickly. We had so much in common. I had talked to him about just getting back into coaching baseball. And at the time, I was literally just volunteering coaching freshman baseball. They had asked me to help. I had moved back to the area I was from. I'd met my wife, and he said, well, just start doing it, just start doing it. And then through him, and then he said, you need to go to the ABCA. Let's go, let's get you to the ABCA. So I went to the ABCA, and just through Nick, I met, Butch Chaffin, and I met, Wes Brooks, and I met Madam Mosley, and I met all these guys, Chuck Ball, all these guys that I still talk to on a daily basis. Somebody's going to be mad I didn't mention them, but oh well. That I talk to still on a daily basis that kind of showed me how to do it the right way. That kind of showed me how to be more of a instead of just transactional, more of a transformational coach, to really tie in the life part. And if you're I'm going to build a lot more fathers and husbands and Major League Baseball players. So I need to kind of focus on that too, which I didn't come up with that quote. That was someone else's. But I would say that first ABCA that I went to in Anaheim um, was a rush, and I was just into it from day one. I really like the full circle aspect of coaching, not just the X's and O's on the field, but building the relationships and having a place for these kids to call someone if they need someone, and or just building relationships, show them how to be not only a man but a human being going on in the future.
So believe it or not, what you just alluded to, a lot of these coaches that you just mentioned have been a big influence on me just from following them on social media, and then several of them I've had on the show. And yes, I would say that one of the biggest things that I learned from most of those guys was about being transformational.
Yeah, they do it right. They're competitive. They want to win on the field, but there's then that balance of what kind of product you want to win on the field with. A bunch of players that you don't like or you can't stand to be around, or you don't want your kids to be around, or you want to try and build the total package. And it's not easy. It's harder. It's definitely harder. But I think I could say, the last couple of years, and even when I was at Roy Grande, I don't think there's any of those kids that I wouldn't trust to babysit my kids. And I take pride in that. And it's also it's a compliment to them and their families too. It's not just me and my assistant coaches and the whole thing. We went to the semifinals 2 years in a row and lost. And at the high school level, it's like, I think that's a success, because when we got there to that program, it wasn't doing great, and it wasn't necessarily a talent thing. I think it was just the buy-in and the process of, let's do the full circle and see what works out. I purposely took some lumps early in seasons just to kind of build character. I played a really hard schedule. We'd go play against some really good teams that were probably out of our league, but every year we got, the first year we played in a PBR tournament that Borba set up, Eric Borba. Mm-hmm. We were 0-4 and we weren't close. And then the next year we were 2-2, and then the next year we were better again. So I think you start building the belief, and it's a belief also. If you just put in the work in life, it's going to work out for you. It may not be pretty. It's simple. It isn't easy, right? We all know what we have to do.
That's right.
Just, are you willing to do it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's parallel with what I'm dealing with now. I just took over a new program last November, so this spring was my first season there, and no culture whatsoever. I mean, just nothing. I mean, I was their fifth head coach in 5 years, so these poor kids had no guidance. They had no structure whatsoever,
right.
And to your point, yes, it was a struggle. I mean, we were, I'm trying to think, we were 1-12 at one point in the season. And,
sure.
A lot of people that I talked to said, look, just trust the process. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just, because it was frustrating at times. I was like banging my head on the wall saying, what's going on. But, in the long run, we won 4 out of our last 5 games, and you could see the difference between those last 5 games and the first 5 games. So, is all they need is a little direction. Like you said, it's not a talent issue.
No. And I think, like our first year, we started out 1-11, I believe. And then we were 1-11, and then we started getting better, and we started getting better, and then we got to the playoffs. We made the playoffs. And we actually got bumped up a division. We had been playing so well. And we were the 16 seed against the number 1 team that was undefeated, and we went and beat them. We traveled and we beat them.
Nice.
And I think that's kind of when everybody went, oh, okay, like it's all a plan. And there's time we could have had, I think if you're willing to go 500 for the first half of the season, you can be really good at the end. And I think that's why, we were second in the league 2 years in a row, but we ended up in the semis 2 years in a row. And I think that early season struggle pays off in building the character piece and the competitive piece and the belief.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I mean, it's just a matter of again, my feeling is it's just a matter of teaching the boys how to compete, what's expected.
Right.
You can't hit a ground ball to shortstop and dog it down to first base. You have to give us 100% all the time. And once they understand that part of it, well, then you'll take a little bit of a step up from there.
Sure. That's where it starts. Everything you can control. I think if you can do everything you control hard, then you either have the talent or you don't, or you work hard enough or you don't. But if you can control your effort, I tell my son that, like, just be a good teammate, work hard, play the game the right way, control what you can control, and everything else will fall into place. It's not a type of game where you can control everything, and that's the beautiful part, and that's the part that kicks you in the stomach. And especially dealing with the younger kids, the 12-year-old level. My son's 9. Like, just start getting into that mental part where I've even gone so far as to listen. You hit a rocket to the second baseman, and he jumps up. I'll give you a hit. Is that what you want? You want a hit? I'll give you a hit. Just keep doing that. I don't care.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And again, it's, like you said, it's trying to get the younger players, I guess, at the age of 12, let's say, because let's face it, right, most of the time these younger players don't get that type of coaching. They don't get that type of, mental outlook on the game. Okay. So I believe if we teach, 10, 11, 12-year-old kid what you just said, yeah, you hit a bullet right at the second baseman and he catches it, I'm happy as hell. Mom and dad might not be mad because might not be happy because you didn't get a hit, but that's not the game.
Right. It's not the game. It's not we wish it was the game, but it's not the game. The game is you can just go hit as many balls as hard as you can and see what happens, and I think that part, and that's something we're dealing with right now, because we don't travel. Like, we just cut down to 24 with the national team last week, and then we don't travel to Honduras until September 20th. So we have this huge space where we're trying to figure out how do we keep in touch with these kids again till our next little mini camp, which is early September. How do we? And I think that's a piece of it, is like weekly Zooms, and maybe we'll start doing some mental stuff, because we're getting to the end of baseball season where some of these guys are going to shut it down and do other sports. Well, we still have 6 more spots to trim down before we go to Honduras. And I think if you look at there's a natural letdown when you're told, hey, you're 24 of the best kids in the nation. But I think there's a part where you kind of go, I made it. That's natural. But we need to find a way to keep them engaged and keep them throwing, but not throwing too much, but throwing enough. So the staff and I right now are kind of figuring out game plans for that. And then we'll start touching on that weekly with them.
So that's fantastic. So you kind of led me into where I wanted to go next. Give us an idea of how you became the 12U national coach for USA Baseball, because, again, there's not many guys that get to do that. It's a great honor to be that guy. How did it happen?
I think it's something that when I the first event I ever did for USA Baseball was 12U. And it was because of Nick. They had 12U program used to do what they called the Open, and it was in California. It was out in California in Santa Clarita, kind of by Magic Mountain. And it used to be a lot more kids, and there would be 8 teams, and they would play against each other. Kind of like the Futures tournaments now. They'd play against each other, and then we would select the staff of the players for trials out of those teams. So in order to be on, you had to get invited to the Open. I was in California, and I was actually flying to New York the next day.
Oh, really?
And I got a call from the head of the 12U at the time, and he asked, "Hey, Nick James, put your name out there. We're in California. We need a guy. Is there a chance you could pop down and help us?" And I had only been coaching a couple of years, and I was like, I didn't even think. I just said 100%. I'll be there.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, I'm supposed to fly to New York tomorrow. So, because I have the best wife in the world and all that, we could get into that as much as you want. She's been working overtime lately. I went down, I talked to them, and they said, well, if you can make it for a day, then we can cover the other part. Okay. So I went down really hot. And I was like setting up tees, running equipment around. I was doing anything. I was like an intern at a company, which I felt myself like there's no job that's too good for me. I'll do it all. I'll go set up tees right now. Like, I don't care. And I was literally doing anything anybody needed. But I kind of just shut up. I didn't know anything, so I didn't think I should say anything. I think that's where people get in trouble. They want to talk about how much they know, and it's like, well, why would I know anything about this? This is my first time, So I went from sitting in the meeting room with guys like Butch and Wes and Nick Borba and RJ Farrell and all these guys that we talked about. I still talk to now, that are my mentors and best friends. And then I'm on field with a USA Baseball shirt on, doing all this stuff. And I kept asking Nick, what am I doing anything wrong? No, you're doing fine, And all those guys were so accommodating and welcoming. I remember Jason Sakani and Butch, and I just was around a bunch of guys that seemed like they were doing it for the right reasons, that I wanted to be a part of. I just wanted to be anything. I'd set up tees for the next 20 years. I don't care. So long story short, a new 12U director came in. Will Schwarr came in, and he sent me an email and said, "Hey, we heard great things about you. You want to work the opening?" Okay. So then I would see, and Todd Fine was the manager the next year, and I would see that 12U manager job, and I would think, that's a cool job. That'd be awesome to do one day. I just don't see where I'm ever going to be qualified to do it, because, and I'm just fine with it. I'm a really believer in just wherever I am, that I'm going to do my best. Right now I'm putting together beds and stuff, I'm going to do the best I can. But just kind of kept working up and up and up. And every year I'd get a little more responsibility. And then I became on trial staff. But I can honestly tell you, it's a job or a title that I always looked at with reverence. And I thought, oh, that's cool. But I never set my goal on, I'm going to be that. I'm going to do everything I can to be the 12U manager. I just said yes to everything that USA Baseball asked me to do, whether it be the team championships in Arizona or futures or the combine or anything. I was Andrew Bartman and the development piece. I'm doing those things, anything. And then I just kind of worked my way up till I was asked to be on the staff last year, which blew me away, with Troy Gerlach and Seth Kinney and Eric Casada and myself, and we won gold last year, and then they called me this year. So I think I don't know if I put the time in and they saw someone that was dedicated to it, especially with my military background. The national program means the world to me. So I know it's a long answer, but that's the journey. I don't know. I kept putting in my time, and I'm really fortunate to have an opportunity.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to just say what you did, is that it was the journey. So yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. And I'm sure, everybody wants to hear that, because the thing that I take away from it is that it's like anything else we do. We have to put in the work to get results. So it seems to me that, you put in the work, you did what you had to do, and people recognized it, and, here we are. And you kind of led me into something else that I wanted to talk to you about, was because I am a firm believer as a baseball coach that the military way of doing
Mm-hmm.
things has an influence on me. And I'll give you an example. Okay. So one of my favorite quotes that I use with my players all the time is, and it's a Navy SEAL quote, during times of crisis, we do not rise to the occasion. We sink to the level of our training. Okay. And I love that.
Right.
Just so many things that are military based. So how do you feel that your military background helps you?
Yeah, well, there's definitely like a discipline piece, I think. Not in a punishment way, but just in a personal discipline.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, me going in the Marine Corps was probably the best thing I ever did. Like, next to meeting my wife is probably the thing that changed my life the most. And I don't know if I meet my wife if I don't go in the military, because I don't know if she wanted to meet the guy that was. But it's just not that I was a bad guy. It just taught me a lot. I just learned a lot about myself. I kind of learned I was so kind of self-absorbed before the military. Now you get out there and realize it's about us, which is great. It's especially when I was done playing baseball in college and things, I was really yearning for something that was about us. I like the team aspect. I don't necessarily. I like being a part of a team. I don't. That's why I've never played like individual sports. I wasn't. I don't like that part. I like doing it with other people. So I think the military, it's such a team-based thing that if you can get one person to buy into sacrificing for themselves, or sacrificing for the team, then you can start building a team that way. Like, especially in baseball, not everybody's going to be the hero every day.
Right.
We were talking the other day about just in the 12U stuff, and this is something I did in high school too. If a guy hits a solo home run, right, everybody's outside the dugout jumping around, which, whatever you think about that, it's the world we live in. And they're jumping around. But if a guy hits a ground ball to second base and the runner scores from third, they don't do that. It's like they're worth the same amount. It's the same thing, except this guy gave himself up. Like, he should be more celebrated for that, or a sack bunt. Like, if you're going to celebrate everything. Celebrate all the – I know the glitz and the glamour of the solo home run is great, but the ground out to second's worth the same amount.
Absolutely.
And that's how you win. And I think as far as like my coaching style, I'm not a dictator. Like, I know I put my name on it at the end. I know the decisions are mine at the end, but I believe in having a delineation and a staff around me that, like, hey, Wes, what do you want to do with the catching stuff? Okay. There's a reason you're here. You're a better catching guy than I am. So why am I going to change? So I want them. We were just texting about that yesterday. Like, my staff this year is Josh Ellison, Wes Brooks, and Roger Wright. And it's like, these guys are all great coaches. So why am I going to tell Josh? Why am I going to tell Jelly, like, hey, I want you to do the outfielders this way? I know he knows what he's doing. That's why he's here. So if I have a massive issue, if I want to do things a certain way, I'll do that. But that's where I think the military gets a bad rap, is they think, I believe people believe that they want to build robots, and they don't. Essentially, if I'm in charge of a unit and I've got 30 leaders out there, then it makes everybody better. And that's what we're trying. Even in high school, like I said, I know I put my name on it and the decision's mine at the end, but you have to have smart people around you. And if you can make your players smart people too, then you're going to be better off that way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree.
I have the same type of quote, sorry to cut you off, word train. Mine is, I had it somewhere. If we bleed in peace, then we bleed less in war. So it's a little different. It's a little more aggressive, but it's more still a training thing,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many things that come out of the military that apply to what we do. But I couldn't agree with you more about empowering the people around you. I just had a meeting with my coaches maybe 2 weeks ago or so. And that was the one thing, because, again, I just finished my first year, so we're still building, and I want people to understand where I'm coming from. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I said to them in that meeting was, guys, whatever you're doing, just take it and run with it. That's it. I don't want to
Yeah,
be out there working with my infielders, working with my outfielders, my pitchers, my hitters. I can't. So you guys got to
right,
do it and go do your thing. And if we got to tweak here and there,
right,
sure, we'll do that. But go do it.
right. Yeah, there's a reason you're here. There's a reason you're a coach. There's a reason, and if not, then maybe we don't have the right coaches. That's the brutal part of it. But if I can't trust you to do that, then maybe we need to look elsewhere. But I don't think that's the case most of the time. And sometimes you need to lead your coaches too. They need to feel they're human beings. They need to feel confident. They need to feel empowered. They need to feel special. They're just like anybody. And I think if you can do that with your coaches and help them learn and train them and they continually grow, then you're going to be better on the whole.
And I agree with that because, again, case in point, my assistant is a younger guy. He's a gym teacher in the school, and he's young. And
Yeah.
I told him, listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to work with the catchers. Okay, every day in practice, drill the catchers. Da 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 da. Da. And
Yeah.
if there's anything that I can do to help you, I'm here. And I'll help you. To do it because again, I feel that if I can build him up and help him to make him a better coach, well, that's the best thing for the program.
Yeah. It's the best thing for everybody. Best thing for him, best thing for you, best thing for the players program. Yeah. Why? And I think there's and that was the one thing that when I first got into, I guess, higher level coaching or hanging around with higher level guys was how, I know other sports, people are very like, oh, this is our system. I'm not showing you how we do this. I was amazed that every coach I met was like, what do you want? I'll show you how we do it. I'm like, oh, really? And then, I know baseball coaches still don't do that, but it seems to me all the guys that do it for the right reasons are like, yeah, well, here's how we run this first and third, or here's how we defend this. Like, oh, that's cool. Like, I like that. I like the collaborative part.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I agree with you 100% because, yes, every guy I talk to, you can, ask them anything. And again, it's high level guys because I would say a lot of times, and maybe I should put it this way, and I've run into this, and I'm sure you have, where you have an egotistical coach who thinks that he's, the best on the face of the earth, and they do hold everything close to the vest. Whereas the guys who know better don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, agreed. Like I've had guys send me stuff like, well, try this. And then, Borba used to send me things about pitching. And I'd be like, well, I don't have three guys that throw 90, Eric. I don't Orange Lutheran. So it's, you gotta be able to filter it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was just talking to Scott Stelz from Chatham High School, and Scott has won back-to-back state championships. And wow. Again, great coach, this and that. He said to me, he goes, Jim, you ever need anything? He said, I'm here. Text me, ask me.
Right.
Because I'll help you out. And one of the things that he did say that really hit home with me was, we all do our X's and O's a little bit differently, this and that. And he said, the X's and O's, yes, they matter, but they don't matter as much as all of the other stuff does, okay? The X and O's, you got to be good at it, but you got to be better at the other stuff to be a good coach.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, especially in baseball, this isn't a game that you can necessarily just out athletic everybody. In all reality, and in some of the other big sports, if you're bigger, stronger, you're going to win. That's the way it works. Like, baseball is not that game. So we used to do it with bunts. Like, there's times when I'll want a kid to bunt. I'll just tell them bunt. Just bunt. Like, I'm not trying to hide it. Like, because if we do it right, it works. And if they want to bring the third baseman in 10 feet, then we can automatically slap. Like, whatever. Then I give you the freedom to do something else. But just do it doesn't matter. Like, you don't need to fool everybody that much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree because I've done the same thing, same exact thing.
Yeah.
Where,
oh, yeah.
Again, I was talking with one of my coaches and we were talking about bunting, and he was saying how he's one of my JV coaches. He's a very, very good coach, very knowledgeable. And he was saying how, the opposing coach was getting mad at him because he bunted like 6 times in a game and, suicide 3 times, whatever. And the thing is, I know me as a coach. If you did that to me, I'm not going to get mad at you. I'm going to go back to practice and say, hey, guys, we got to learn how to defend this better. That's it.
Right.
Instead of getting upset.
I'm the same way. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like, well, I guess that's the thing about the celebrations. Like, my favorite player growing up was Don Madden, right? I hit a home run, put your head down, run around the bases, don't make a deal. I'm not a huge fan of all the showboat stuff. I'm not. I understand why they're pushing it. I understand it grows. I get all that. Like, I understand you have to let, Butch told me, I hated it. And I was out on the celebrations, and then Chaffin told me one time, he goes, you got to let them have fun, coach. Like, we beg them to play with enthusiasm, and then they start playing with enthusiasm, and we tamp it down. It's like, I get it, but like, and there's a definite line, but if you don't want them to do it, then throw a better pitch. Like, if you don't want to strike out and have this pitcher pumped up, then have a better 2-strike approach. Like, there is that part too, and that's I guess the military part too. If you don't want this to happen, learn how to defend it.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want them to bunt 6 times, be better at bunt defense, because especially a bunt, if you can't do a bunt, then it's going to be a long day for your third baseman.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no ill will towards anybody that does that. That's part of the game. That's something you can control. Like,
yes.
Yes. So
yeah,
I have no. I don't get that part. I don't get the part where I even go the other way. Like, if we're down by 10, if we're losing, we're getting crushed, and it's a wild pitch and they don't go to second base, I'm like, just go. Like, now you're disrespecting the game. You know what I mean? If we throw the ball to backstop, I get one base at a time. I get playing with respect. But if we throw the ball to backstop, go to second base.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's like, come on.
Yeah, because I've been the same way about that, because I say to myself, well, what's worse, that they stopped running or that they're running on a wild pitch with a 10-run lead? And I'm like, either way, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, either way, it's our fault. Right. What's it their fault for? Like, and it's like, it's almost like, don't take pity on me. Run to second base. I don't. It's a thin line. But.
That's funny, because I really look at it the same way, but it's all good stuff. So let me ask you this, because this is something that I believe, and I want to get your feeling on it. I don't feel like as a coach I take myself too seriously. Don't get me wrong. I have my moments where, we have to put our nose to the grindstone. We got to do what we have to do. But I don't take myself too seriously, like, like, hey, I'm the head coach around here. We do things. I don't do that. So how important do you think that is, not to take yourself too seriously?
I think it's really important. And I can be as intense as anybody, I guess. I've had moments. I think it's important for the players to see someone who's a human being. And if you want to have those relationships with your players, especially at the 12U national team level, like, I don't care how good these kids are, they're still 12. They're still 11. Like, so you better be able to have fun on their level. Like, you better be able to laugh. And obviously it's that thin line of how do we create respect and discipline. However, it's not just by being this robotic, that we do this. You got to have little jokes, and you got to have fun. And I try, and in the warm-ups, I try and go out and give all of them knuckles and check in on them. As a head coach, there's a lot to do. That's why sometimes being an assistant was more fun. It's like I get to just teach baseball and build relationships. That's it. But get out there, give them knuckles, maybe make sure that, just a quick conversation with all of them, just to look in their eyes, make sure they're doing okay. Not so much with the younger kids, but those high school kids are dealing with a lot of crap. Like, they're dealing with a lot. They're dealing with, the social media and the grades and the girls and the homework and where am I going to college? And there's so much on image now that people think about committing to the smallest school in the country, and they put it on Twitter. It's like, oh, I'm thinking about going to this. It's like, all right, like, that doesn't mean anything. None of it means anything. And so, um, like I know kids are so worried about committing. It's like, don't worry about it. Like it'll either happen or it won't. We're working towards it. Um, and so that's part of the reason we like meditate 5 minutes a day. We just lay there before practice and meditate, just to be able to have that different side of not only me where I'm intense and I'm trying to do this, but also we're laughing about music or whatever they have. So I think not taking yourself so seriously is a massive part of it. Like and I'm not that way. Like I'm not that person off the field. So why would I be that way on the field? I'm not Newt Rockney. I'm not Bill Cowher. I've tried to be those guys and I can't. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't. So I'm more of a laid back person. I have moments. I have moments.
Oh,
but
we all do.
That's like arguing. Yeah. Like arguing with umpires. I try not to argue with umpires because I try and get my players to see the example. I'm asking them to do something, so I need to be the example, right? Once again, I've had my moments, but it's like me going out and putting on I ask them to stay calm, control what you can control, don't let the umpire change the outcome, and then I go out and scream at an umpire for 10 minutes. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So there's ways, I'll go out with a lineup card and pretend I'm talking to them about something else, and which I learned from Sheedinger.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you got to have fun. If you're not having fun, what are we doing? Go find something else to do. This is too hard.
I can tell you a funny story, and I don't even know if I've said it on the show before, but I'm going to say it again if I did. Okay, so we're playing a game. The pitcher we're up at bat. The pitcher for the opposing team, turns like he's going to throw to first base for a pickoff and doesn't throw the ball. Umpire doesn't say anything. Okay, so I'm looking, so I walk down. I will never call an umpire blue. I always learn their name before the game, and I call them by their name.
Yeah.
So I go walking down. I said, Diego. I said, it was a balk. So he looks at me and he goes, yeah, you're right, it was. So I said, okay. I said, we're going to call it. What are we going to do? So he goes, Jim. He goes, look. He said, if I call it now, I'm going to look like an idiot. He goes, could you let it go? Like that. So I looked at him. I said, fair enough. Okay. So I looked at my guy who's up at bat, and I said, look, the guy just balked. Do me a favor. I said, hit a double in a gap. I said, that doesn't matter. Like that, I walked back.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what happened. Maybe he got a base hit. Maybe he didn't. But again, what am I going to do? Beat him up?
No. Yeah, you can't do any of that. And they're trying. They're doing their best they can. They're out. And man, I don't envy them. It's hard. It's hard to be an umpire. I don't think, I mean, people are weird now. Parents are out of control. And like, I had an umpire tell me, you got to control, whoever said that, control them. And I said, who? And he said, somebody in the stand said something. And I said, perfect. Who? He goes, I don't know. I said, what'd they say? He goes, I don't know. They said something. I said, well, I don't know who, and I don't know what. So what? He said, I don't care, but I'll kick everybody out. And I said, please do. Like, have at it, man. Like, okay, that's fine.
That's
like,
fine
we
with
can
me.
do that too. Like, yeah. So it's funny, but I think, like, to get back to it, you have to have a sense of humor. You have to be, they have to see the side of you that allows them to see you as a human being.
Yeah.
There's plenty of times to do that. It doesn't all have to be business all the time. And I think while they're warming up, I'm walking out, like, laughing with them, talking with them. And in that time, I can kind of check in on the look in their eye, or I can see where they're at, see their mood. Because sometimes baseball is not the most important thing to a high school kid at 3:00 in the afternoon in today's world,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I could say one of the best compliments that I got was actually after the season. I had a player, senior. I coached him when he was younger, so I knew him. And I forgot what it was. He won all county, or he won all league, or what it was. So anyway, I texted him and I congratulated him and this and that. And I don't remember how we got on it, but anyway, he said to me, he says, Coach, he said, I just want to let you know, he said, that you've always been a mentor to me. He said, and I can certainly say that when I played for you, I had the most fun. And believe it or not, that meant more to me than him saying, I consider you a mentor. The fun part that he said, okay, I did my job. He had fun.
It's awesome, right? Yeah, and I think that's why we need to sprinkle in like fun and practices. Like this game's supposed to be fun, and I know that's a cliched saying, and I know it's not always realistic, but at the base of this is a game that we all fell in love with. So let's try and find a way to have some fun here. I had a buddy, Brad Latchman, that used to do like pregame without a ball. It was crazy, but it was like, all right. And then everybody thinks it's stupid, and then halfway through it, they're overthrowing balls and chasing them and having fun. It's so I think so. I think you have to have some sense of humor and be laid back and let them see you as a person.
No doubt about it. I mean, I've had times where, players, I'd be talking to them or whatever, and I'll say something stupid, which I'm good at doing. And, next thing you know, the whole team is cracking up, laughing. I let them laugh and we joke a little. And then I say, okay, guys, come on, let's get back to it. And we do. It's that simple. So.
Well, and it's not football, right? Sometimes more intense and harder isn't always the right answer.
Exactly. Yeah. So something else, and I'm going to actually, because I'm pretty sure I asked Chaffin this question, and I want to get your opinion on it, okay? So there are some guys that want to be called coach. Like that means everything to them. I want to be called coach.
Right.
Then there are those that actually know how to coach, okay? So what's the difference between wanting to be called coach and guys who really coach? What's the difference?
To me, the difference is one is a title and one is an action, right? Like one's a noun, one's a verb. I know why they do it. I'm not against it. I can appreciate it. I think it's a sign of respect. But when I have someone that's my own age comes up to me and says, "Hey, coach," I was just like, I'm like, okay, like, I don't even care. Like my nickname's Be Mad, right? Like the players, these 12U kids that are just, they're Coach West or Coach Be Mad. You know what I mean? Like that's fine. That's a way to personalize, and you should be respected as a coach. I'm not taking that away. But I think that also kind of goes hand in hand with the being a person thing. Like, I don't want to be seen as just a coach by my players. I'm a million other things. I'm a million. And like I said, I know it's a term of respect, but if you don't call me coach, then I'm like, it doesn't bother me. Like,
right.
I know. And I grew up with, the head coach at Roy Granny I was there was Brad Latchman from Marcel and Renee Latchman. It's Marcel's son. He was always just called Latch, and they were fine. He was fine with that. Now, you didn't call him Brad. That was too far, but like Latch or coach or, Be Mad or coach Be Mad. It's like, I'm fine with that because that's, to me, if you just call me coach, and I coach, and if I don't know you, it's almost like calling someone Mr., right? Hey, Mr. Madsen, like, hey, call me Bryan, like whatever. I feel like you don't know me that well, right? If then it's just this business transaction, which sometimes it is. But after a while, I don't know. I think if you want to be called coach all the time by everybody, then you're worried about the wrong things. You're worried about being known as a coach instead of your coaching letting you be known as a coach.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I actually look at it like, actually being a coach is a responsibility. There's a responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's it.
100%.
I don't care what you... Go ahead.
Right. I know there's somebody, I introduced them to my wife, and she said, "Oh, how are you, Mr. whatever?" And they said, "Actually, it's Doctor whatever." It's like, okay, take it. You know what I mean? Like, all right, take it easy. Like, why don't you just be a good doctor and let that speak for yourself instead of making everybody call you doctor?
Right.
Like, yes, I'm a coach. If you don't know me, you want to call me coach. But after a while, it's like, with my players, I'd rather they call me something that's more personal to them. So I know we're building a relationship. My kids don't call me coach.
Right. Yeah, could you imagine?
I know, but they'll call RJ. It's funny because it's almost sometimes it's a term of endearment, it's a term of respect. Like RJ Farrell, we're very close. Our families are very close, and my son will always go, "Hey, Coach RJ, what's up?" It's just like part of him, which is not. But if I think it was just like Coach Farrell, it'd be different.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I do. I think one's a noun, one's a verb. Like, are you coaching, or do you just want to be a coach? That's a different thing.
yeah, that's good. I like that. But I think that, like you just said, with RJ, they say Coach RJ, right? And that's something with me that, because of my last name is not easy to say. A lot of people don't know how to say it right.
Right.
And so it's Coach Jimmy. And that's fine. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Perfect.
But but again, to your point, I don't need to be called coach. You can call me Jimmy. You could call me, just don't call me shithead and I'm good.
Right. Yeah, right. That's either, which is going to happen too. As long as they put coach in front of it, it's okay.
Exactly.
Right? You can put anything after coach and it's fine.
Oh God. So tell us a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. No, wait a minute. I'm going to go to something else, because you're in the same situation that I am, and I want to know how you feel about this. Okay. So at St. Joe's, you were not a teacher in the school, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
How does that, or what effect does that have on you as a coach? Because I'm in the same boat. As long as I've been coaching high school baseball, I have never been a teacher in the building.
Right. On some points, it's good. Like, you can just show up, coach. You don't have to deal with the day-to-day minutia. On the other hand, it kind of puts you behind the power curve. Like, you're not around the school. You don't have your finger on the pulse. You don't know what's happening. There's probably less preparation that happens at the school with school. So, like, I had a JV coach that was on campus, and Richie was great. He'd do stuff for me, but I think it kind of takes you away from the pulse of the school a little bit. On the other hand, there's a whole lot you don't have to deal with. It's not a bad thing. It's just, you show up, you practice, and you leave. I don't know if you're really intertwined with the school as much. Not being there every day, going through the same stuff the other coaches and teachers do. I think there's some conversations you probably miss out on. But on the other hand, some of those conversations you don't need to have either. So just showing up and coaching is not bad. There's pluses and minuses, both of it. I'm not a teacher, so I've never been on campus for any of my jobs.
I'm not either. So it's I always felt that the only thing that I don't want to say bothered me, but the only thing that I looked at that was tougher is that it was harder to build the relationships with the players, because, again, the other coaches, actually the school that I was coaching for before I had this job, almost all of the coaches were teachers. So they had relationships with these kids, and it took me longer to build those relationships, and that was really the only drawback. But I mean, it eventually happened.
Yeah, it happens if you put the effort in.
Yeah.
I think, and this is going to come out bad, and I don't mean it to sound bad, but maybe it is bad, maybe I do. I am a person that believes adults should be treated as adults. So when I went into head coaching, I was very open communication. If you have an issue, let's talk about it. I gave out information to parents, like, okay, just talk, I think if I went back, I would do that differently. It's nothing personal. It's just everybody's, and I love my kids too. Everybody's kids are important, and I think that gives people, and maybe I went too far with the communication piece. Like, hey, if you have an issue, come to me with it. Like, okay, I don't need every issue. I know guys that are really good at that, however, they've been they were coaching for years at the same place, and they had set a standard. Uh, I think that's the one thing was if I'd have been on campus, I'd have had a little more with the kids. Hey, you need to talk about this. Talk about this. Because you get to practice, you finish practice, you get some extra work, and then I drive back home to be with my own kids. You don't always have time to deal with all that stuff. So, I think I would change that, like maybe not as open communication, and because you want to treat adults like adults, that doesn't always work. Doesn't even work with me. I'm an adult. I don't always act like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 61 years old. I still don't consider myself an adult.
No, I know. Just by age, I am. But yeah, so I think there's some real pluses to be able to see the kids every day, day in and day out, outside of a field setting. But that's probably it. It's not a lot else.
Right. Something that just popped into my head with your USA baseball team. So you're going to put together, what is it, a roster of 18 eventually?
Yeah, we'll take 8. Yes.
Okay. So these are some of the best 12U players in the country, and there's going to be kids that are not in the starting lineup, okay?
Correct.
How, because this is, I could see this being tough for parents whose kids are not, because if they're not in the starting lineup, because wherever they're playing other than USA Baseball, they got to be studs on those teams. And now they're in a situation where now they're not playing as much. So do you have to deal with anything, with that?
So the way we do it, we are very, very heavy on the character piece. And that's something when you take, and so the way it breaks down is international baseball is all built on birth year. It's not like it is here, like travel ball. So we're looking for 2012s this year, that you're born in 2012 or 2000 or below, right? Or above, sorry. So the first thing we do, it's a process of when they come to the futures tournaments or any of the identification stuff, we're talking about the character piece. Like we're talking about how do you act when you fail. We're telling them right now, the 18 kids that travel, it's a puzzle, right? Like it's not the 18 best shortstops because it doesn't work that way. It's not the 18 best left-handed pitchers. So we're very hard to hit on that from the beginning. Then when the kids move into the training camp portion where we're going to cut down, they're put into hotel with the roommate. Mom and dad are not there. Mom and dad, we tell them, like, you can go on vacation for the next 5 days, whatever you want to do. The only time they really have any contact with their child is at the field, right? We give them a few minutes, then we go back to the hotel, we meet, we go over stuff. We're constantly watching that character piece. And there's been a lot of really good players that we have not taken because, you're asking the word we use is uncommon, right? Like be uncommon. We're trying to be uncommon. It is very common for a normal 12-year-old to go in a hotel for the first time by himself and run up and down the halls and make a mess and mess around. That's common. That's what a normal 12-year-old do. Like, if you want to be on this team, you can't do that. And that's where we talk about the puzzle. The puzzle's got to fit. And the puzzle has to be, we need a guy who's the best shortstop in his state to be able to sit on a bench, catch 2 bullpens in the dirt, and then go play right field and throw a kid out at first base in a gold medal game and not have an attitude about it. So we hit that hard. So the character piece is just as important as the talent piece because let's be honest, they're all really good. We went from 36 kids to 24 on the 29th, and those 12 kids could have played. There's just that didn't fit the puzzle at this time. Maybe there was a character issue here or there. Maybe there was a kid who didn't necessarily buy in meetings. We came up with this thing, this acronym called GREAT. Let's be great. We're going to be great. And the G is for the gold medal mindset. The R was for relentless. And E was egoless. A was appreciative. And he was tough, right? And so it's kind of cheesy, but they buy into it, when you break it down. And it's like, are you exhibiting those things? So we say be great. Like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go be great, but being great is part of those 5 things. So, there's kids that fail and they come in and they'll slam their helmet and they'll throw their batting gloves and they'll maybe exhibit a selfish behavior or something. And we'll be scouting them and go, the character piece may not be there.
Yeah.
And we'll go talk to them. We'll talk to them in the tournament and we'll say, hey man, that's not a good look, or that's not something we want to see, or that's understand. It's not even that. I understand you're frustrated, but screaming and yelling or doing all this stuff, that's a selfish behavior, right? That's showing me you're not up here where you need to be. I believe we need to give them a chance to correct that behavior. It used to be, honestly, we would just scratch them off. Like, nope, not a USA guy. And then we were talking, I think like RJ and I or somebody, we were all talking. And it's not just my idea, it's other people's too. But what if they've never been told different? What if they're the big fish in a small town and nobody ever wants to tell them different because they don't want them to leave his team? So that's part of the learning is, hey, this is not going to help you in the future. You need to correct it soon or you're not going to be a part of it. So I think that's how we steer clear of that. It's not always perfect, but we'll look for little things. Like, is there a kid that forgets his belt every day? Like, I know it's a small thing, but it's a big deal when we're in another country with 18, 12-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, even at the high school level, this year, the first, after the team was picked, the first practice, I'm walking around checking belts. I was.
Yeah.
Just so that they understand that that's, if you don't have a belt on, that's unacceptable. Make sure you have a belt on. But getting back to what you had said about some of these players where, yes, I've seen it a million times, and at the, younger levels, they play and they're good players, and their coaches are reluctant to hold them accountable, and they don't realize that they are hurting that kid by doing that. Because again, by the time he gets to somebody like you at high school, somebody like me at high school, well, I'm holding you accountable. You do something stupid, and I'm gonna let you know about it. So you're doing them a disservice. Teach them young.
You're not helping them. You're not, because then they're gonna, and then we're the bad guy for holding them accountable. But that's fine. Like, we've had a couple letters from parents that. Just asking why maybe their kid didn't make it to the next round, as in the USA thing, and there's a character piece, and I tell them, like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm not helping you by just going, oh, he just didn't, he was light with the bat. Well, that's part of it, but there's also was another guy who was light with the bat that was fully focused the whole time. And it's hard because. I think maybe our kids are lucky because I am able to see what it takes. So I could maybe work on. My son's extremely competitive. Mom's pulled him out of the dugout before when he was younger. She's never had to do it again since then. We've had conversations about behavior. 6, 7, 8-year-old. They don't know how to control their emotions. I was talking to someone like maybe till 9 or 10 is when they can start figuring out the mental part, right? And up until then, it's just reactionary. Everything's reaction. And so he's been told since he's little, like, you got to watch your reactions. And it's not perfect, and he's not great at it right now. But I think the earlier you can hit on that, the better they're going to be when they're 18. Like, I'm not just trying to make a good 10-year-old or a 12-year-old. I'm looking at an 18-year-old, and sometimes there's been plenty of players that were not selected for the 12U national team that are getting paid to play baseball right now. So, and they make adjustments.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of kids that make this team that are not playing Major League Baseball. It's just some are bigger, some are stronger, some are different maturity or development. And some kids will take just because they have an extra tool. Like, we have 18 kids, and we need a bunch of multi-purpose tools out there. And if you can catch a bullpen, then it puts you this much higher over at maybe you have an infielder, a corner guy, and a corner guy, left-handed hitting. But this guy has catcher's gear and he can catch him as an emergency catcher. Well, that's part of the puzzle, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one of the things that you said that just it brought back to mind when I was at the convention, and I don't know if you spoke to RJ, but I had RJ and Sheets on together, and we were talking, and they were busted on Butch, and they said that Butch was part of the 18U national team that cut Mike Trout. And
Yeah.
I got a kick out of that. But to your point, you know, Mike Trout, and he got cut.
Yeah. Sure. 100%. Like, it happens. It's all, what do we need now? We're not building a team that we would draft in 5 years. Trust me, Mike Trout would be on the team you're going to draft.
Right.
But at the time, they needed an outfielder that could go compete against Cuba in 2 weeks. So you take the older kid, you know, it's like, it's just a puzzle. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So yeah, RJ and I like to mess with Butch as much as possible. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I said it to them when we were talking, was that, you know, he seems like he has such, again, a lot of the qualities that we were just talking about. He doesn't take himself too seriously, good sense of humor, great guy, and probably one of the best, most knowledgeable baseball guys around. And again, he doesn't take himself that seriously. So you could bust on guys like that.
No. And I think that's where, like I said, I got really lucky. I learned from those guys. I didn't learn from, you know, I live in, you know, well, I don't anymore, but like San Luis Obispo area, the Central Coast of California is a very comfortable place. It's very comfortable. You know, I'm not saying we were rich by any means. I'm saying it's comfortable. The weather's perfect. It's 75 with no humidity, with the ocean breeze. It's really hard to find people that want to be uncomfortable and continue to grow, because why would you? Like, you could work construction, which is a great trade, but there's no drive to get out of there. So the meeting coaches that are continually looking to grow, that push you, it was huge for me early in my coaching career. Huge, especially like RJ and I became really good friends really fast. And we were both kind of infield guys. We're both, our families were around the same age. Our wives got along. We were really, really close. So just bouncing things off them or guys that had done it longer than me was huge for me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, you actually just did it for me, because we're just over an hour and I was going to start closing out, and I wanted to ask you about a growth mindset, and you just touched on it. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's everything. Like, if you're not, I mean, I think I texted Sheetinger yesterday, something about the Cape Cod League. Like, and I said, well, you know, adapt or die.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. Like, that's how this life works. It's going to just pass you by. It's like us, we just moved to the East Coast. It's been a crazy last 3 weeks for us. But like I said, I literally got out of a Penske moving truck 2 days ago.
My God,
driving across country.
I actually felt bad
with my wife.
When you text me and you telling me, I said, oh, maybe I should just tell him, don't come on, come on when you know.
Nah, we're good.
I said he's got so many things going on, but I mean, look, Bryan, I can't tell you how much this means to me. This was a great conversation, and cool. I look forward to having more in the future.
Yeah, let's do it anytime. I appreciate you having me. It was a cool little conversation. I appreciate it. We'll have to do it more later. I feel like we could talk about a million things.
Oh my God, I could keep talking. And again, I've said it on the show a million times. People are probably tired of hearing this from me. But when I had Chaffin on, we started at 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening. I did not close this computer down until like 1 o'clock in the morning. We talked for whatever that is, 6 hours constant through. I mean, we only recorded an hour for the show, but after that, we just kept talking. It was crazy.
Yeah. You know what's the best thing about him and a lot of those guys is like, you can do that, and then sometimes I'll just get a text like, hey, man, I love you. That's it.
How cool is that?
Like, it's great. It's awesome. It's the best, and I'm really fortunate to be surrounded by those guys. I definitely would not be here without them.
Yeah.
I know that.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah. I mean, they're, again, the best in the business. So you're a lucky man.
Yeah.
But once again,
Yes,
Bryan,
sir.
thank you so much. We'll,
No problem.
we'll stay in touch, and I'll probably see you at the convention next year and say hello in person.
I will be there. Sounds good.
Awesome. I want to thank Coach Madsen for coming on the show. I caught him at a time when he was making a move from California to Florida, and he was gracious enough to take time away from that move, which is a lot of work, and spend a little bit of time with us on the show. Well, like you heard, sharing with us a lot of his knowledge and his philosophies and his thoughts that make him the coach that he is. And being the head coach of a 12U national team is a great honor, and it was a great honor for me to have him come on the show and share with us. So thanks, Coach Madsen. Good luck as you try and trim the team down to 18 players, and then, bring back the gold from Honduras. The WBSC Baseball World Cup is September 20th through the 29th. So pay attention on X and follow the team. Let's see how they do. I mean, I guarantee with a coach like Bryan Madsen and the other coaches that he has assisting him with this team is going to bring back the gold. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Again, don't forget to follow us on X, follow us on Facebook. Check out our new website, thectbshow.net. You can email us. You can sign up to be a guest. You can leave comments. You could leave reviews. And, of course, you could listen to every show that we've ever done. It's right there. So thanks again, everyone. And I don't have to tell you this, but all of the coaches that are involved with USA Baseball know that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.